It was a gray, drizzly Thursday afternoon when Emma Hartley hurried down the sidewalk, her coat buttoned tightly against the cold. She had just finished her shift at the local diner, her hair still smelling faintly of coffee and grilled onions, and all she could think about was getting home to rest her aching feet. She wasn't one to complain, but lately, the double shifts had been wearing on her more than usual. Rent was due, the fridge was half empty, and she still had to send money to her younger brother back home. As she passed the corner grocery store, something caught her eye. An elderly man, maybe in his late 70s, struggling with 2 paper bags. The bags looked heavy, and the man looked far too frail to be hauling them through the rain. One of the bags was already tilting dangerously to one side. For a brief moment, Emma hesitated. She was exhausted, damp, and more than ready to forget the world for a few hours. But then she saw the way the man's hands trembled and how he paused every few steps to catch his breath. Without thinking twice, Emma stepped off the sidewalk. "Sir, would you like some help with those?" The old man looked up, startled. His face, lined with age and worry, softened slightly at the sight of her. "Oh, well, I wouldn't want to trouble you, young lady." "No trouble at all," Emma replied with a gentle smile, already lifting one of the bags from his arms. "Which way are you headed?" "Just around the corner. Elm Street, number 412, he said quietly, as if he weren't used to being noticed, let alone helped. They walked together in silence at first, Emma adjusting her pace to match his slow, deliberate steps. After a minute, the man glanced at her and said, "I'm Walter. Walter Hughes. Used to be a teacher, believe it or not. Taught history for 42 years. Emma smiled. "Nice to meet you, Mr. Hughes. I'm Emma. I work over at Millie's Diner." His eyes lit up. "Ah, the one with the red awning. I used to go there with my wife, bless her soul. Best apple pie in town. That's what people say." Emma chuckled, "Though I haven't had time to try it myself." They reached a small, worn-down brick building. Walter nodded toward the door. "This is me. Thank you again. I don't know how I'd have managed." Emma followed him up the steps. "Let me carry these inside for you." The apartment was modest and neat, with a faint scent of old books and cinnamon lingering in the air. On the mantel above the fireplace sat several framed photos, most of them black and white, of a younger Walter, a beautiful woman with kind eyes, and what looked like classroom scenes. "I'll just set these here," Emma said, placing the bags on the kitchen counter. Walter was quiet for a moment, then said, "You remind me of my students. Kind, thoughtful, the kind that makes you believe the world still has hope." Emma flushed slightly. "Thank you, sir. That's very kind of you." He nodded and reached into his pocket, pulling out a crumpled $5 bill. "I wish I could offer more, but—" Emma shook her head. "No need. Really, I'm just glad I could help." She turned to leave, but Walter called after her. "Emma." She paused in the doorway. "Yes. You made an old man's day a little brighter." "Thank you." She smiled and gave a small wave before heading back into the drizzle. Emma thought little more of it as the week wore on. Life returned to its usual rhythm. Long shifts, short breaks, bills piling up. She didn't even mention the incident to anyone. After all, it was just a small act of kindness. Nothing extraordinary, but sometimes the smallest gestures echo the loudest. The next morning, the buzz around the small town hadn't died down. Evelyn woke up to dozens of messages and missed calls. At first, she panicked. Was something wrong? Had she forgotten something? But then she remembered the day before. The elderly man, the groceries the moment outside the store. Still half asleep. She checked her phone and opened one of the messages. It was from her co-worker, Jenny. "Girl, you're all over the local news. You're trending on Facebook. What did you do?" Evelyn's brows furrowed in confusion. She opened the attached link and watched in stunned silence. It was a security camera clip from the grocery store parking lot, the very moment she had helped the old man. She could see herself offering her arm, steadying his cart, then carrying the bags to his car. It wasn't dramatic or flashy, just simple kindness. But apparently, someone had uploaded the footage with the caption, "This young woman helped my father like an angel." Faith in humanity restored. The post had gone viral. By noon, Evelyn's inbox was flooded with interview requests and messages from strangers praising her for her heart. She even got a call from a mayor's office asking if she'd be open to being recognized at the next town hall meeting. She sat on the edge of her bed, overwhelmed. All this for just helping someone. Her roommate, Maddie, poked her head in with a grin. "Evelyn, you're literally famous right now. Like nice famous. Internet has a crush on you famous." Evelyn laughed nervously. "This is surreal. I didn't think anyone was watching." Well, apparently the whole world was. Meanwhile, across town, an old man sat at his kitchen table, staring at his laptop. His son had shown him the video earlier that morning. That young woman, he hadn't even caught her name properly, had helped him without hesitation. He hadn't realized someone had recorded it. But now, seeing the world react, his eyes welled up. "She reminded me so much of your mother," he said softly to his son. "Same kindness, same quiet strength." His son nodded. "Maybe it's time to tell her." The man hesitated, then picked up a pen. He began to write. Back at Evelyn's workplace, the day was anything but normal. She worked at a small bookstore downtown, a cozy place with warm lighting and shelves that smelled of old paper and new possibilities. Normally, the store saw a modest stream of loyal readers and curious wanderers. But today, people came in just to meet her. An elderly woman brought a homemade pie, insisting Evelyn take it as thanks. A father and his two daughters stopped by, asking if she would sign a copy of a children's book, just as a keepsake. Evelyn felt like she had stepped into someone else's life, all for helping with groceries. By late afternoon, her manager pulled her aside. "Evelyn, there's someone waiting for you at the counter. Says he wrote you something." She stepped out from the back and saw him. The same elderly man from the grocery store. His name was Mr. Harold Bennett. But this time, he wasn't frail or bent over. He stood tall, wearing a tidy suit and holding a letter in a cream envelope. "I hope you don't mind," he said, his voice a little steadier than before. "But I needed to see you again." Evelyn smiled. "Of course not. I was wondering how you were." He handed her the envelope. "I never got to thank you properly. And there's something you should know." Curious, Evelyn opened the envelope carefully. Inside was a handwritten letter and a check. A check. She blinked and looked up. I don't understand." He smiled, that same soft, almost nostalgic smile from before. "You didn't just tell me to my car. You reminded me that kindness is still alive, that not everyone walks by. And for that, I want to give something back. But this amount, this is too much." Evelyn stammered, her hand shaking. Harold held up a hand. "Years ago, I used to run one of the biggest food distribution companies in the state. I built it from scratch, but I always felt something was missing. My wife used to say that we're meant to do more than just profit. We're meant to leave something better behind. You reminded me of her. I want you to take this and do something meaningful with it. Start something, build something, or just chase whatever dream you've kept on hold." Evelyn was speechless. Harold continued. "Or ignore the money altogether, if you'd rather. But the world needs more of you. And if this helps make that happen, then I'm honored." Tears pricked the corners of her eyes. "I don't know what to say. Just keep being you," he said, then tipped his hat and walked out of the bookstore. Evelyn clutched the envelope to her chest, heart pounding. Not from the money, but from the impact of it all. She had done something small, something unnoticed. Yet now, somehow, that small act had rippled out into the world in a way she never imagined. That evening, Evelyn sat on the small balcony of her apartment, the city lights flickering like stars in the distance. The envelope still lay beside her, untouched since she had returned from the bookstore. She had barely spoken a word since getting home, her mind spinning with emotion and disbelief. She thought back to that morning, waking up to a viral video, strangers treating her like a celebrity, and Harold Bennett standing in front of her with more generosity than she had ever known. It didn't feel real. Maddie came out with 2 mugs of tea, setting one in front of her. "You okay?" she asked gently. Evelyn gave a slow nod. "I think so. I don't know what to do with all this." Maddie leaned against the balcony railing. "Do you want my 2 cents?" Evelyn gave a soft smile. "Sure. You don't have to decide tonight. Just breathe. You were just being you, Ev. That's what made all this happen. Maybe now the world finally caught up to how good your heart has always been." Evelyn looked down at the check again, its amount still dizzying. It wasn't just money, it was possibility. A chance to do something meaningful. But what? The next morning, she rose early. For once, it wasn't because of work or errands, but because she had somewhere to be. A plan had begun to form the night before. Not a fully fleshed out business idea or grand ambition, but a direction, a starting point. She returned to the grocery store where it had all started. This time, there were no cameras, no reporters. Just morning shoppers in quiet carts rolling down aisles. She approached the manager, a middle-aged man with kind eyes, and asked if they had any kind of food donation program. "We do," he said, surprised. "But it's small. A couple of employees pitch in. Some weeks it's barely enough to make a dent." Evelyn took a breath. "I want to help expand it. I have some resources now, and I'd like to volunteer too." That afternoon, she stopped by the community center, then the local shelter, then a daycare that had been struggling to provide snacks for their kids. At every stop, she heard the same thing. There was never quite enough. By the end of the day, she had a notebook full of names, contacts, and potential partnerships. The check wasn't going to be a one-time donation. It was going to be seed money. She'd call it the Basket Project. A simple name, a nod to that moment in the parking lot when she helped carry a stranger's groceries. Now she'd help carry a little more. The news picked up her story again, this time with a purpose beyond a viral clip. Local hero launches community initiative with unexpected gift, the headline read. Evelyn tried not to focus on the attention. What mattered was the impact, and she felt it every time someone dropped off a bag of food, or when a volunteer signed up for the weekend shift, or when she saw a kid smile over a fresh meal. Weeks passed, then a month. The Basket Project grew faster than she imagined. People donated not just food, but clothes, books, and time. A few local businesses offered sponsorships. One of the regional news stations ran a full segment on her efforts, and volunteers started reaching out from other towns, asking if they could start chapter. And through it all, Harold Bennett stayed in touch. He visited the project's new storage space one afternoon, watching as Evelyn and a team of volunteers organized care packages. "You really did it," he said, watching her tape a box shut. Evelyn smiled. "I'm just getting started." He chuckled. "That's what my wife used to say." She paused. "She sounds like she was amazing." "She was," he said softly. She believed that small acts, done with love, could change the world. "I lost sight of that after she passed. You reminded me." Evelyn felt a lump in her throat. She reached over and squeezed his hand. "I'm honored." As they walked through the storage room, she told him about the expansion plans, how they wanted to open a small satellite in the neighboring town, and how a group of teenagers had offered to deliver packages to elderly residents. "You've started a movement," Harold said, his eyes shining. Evelyn shook her head. "We've all started one. I just held the first basket." That night, Evelyn went home exhausted, but fulfilled. The check that had once felt like an overwhelming weight had transformed into something real, something good. And it had all started with one choice to help someone who needed a hand. The grocery store no longer felt like just a place to buy food. It had become a symbol of beginnings, of kindness, of what could happen when no one was looking. The following days brought an unexpected whirlwind of attention to Maya's life. What had started as a quiet act of kindness in the grocery store spiraled into something much bigger. The video of her helping Mr. Whitaker had gone viral overnight, shared by a bystander who had quietly recorded the moment. It was picked up by local news outlets and then by national ones. People were moved not only by her compassion, but also by the emotional reunion with the old man's son and the heartfelt moment in the parking lot. Reporters began reaching out to her. Emails flooded her inbox. News vans parked outside her apartment building. It was overwhelming, surreal even. Maya, who had always kept a low profile, suddenly found herself at the center of a story that touched hearts across the country. Despite the media frenzy, she continued to work her shifts at the diner. But now, customers greeted her with applause. Strangers left generous tips with thank you notes scribbled on napkins. A local journalist stopped by during her break and asked, "Did you ever expect this kind of reaction?" Maya had simply smiled, her cheeks flushed with modesty. "I didn't do it for attention. I saw someone who needed help." That humility, perhaps more than anything else, was what endeared her to the public. A week later, Maya received an official-looking envelope in the mail. It was an invitation, personally signed by the mayor, to attend a community appreciation event. She was to be honored for her act of compassion, with a civic award presented in front of hundreds. Maya almost didn't go. Public speaking terrified her. She felt like she didn't belong in the spotlight. But her mother insisted. "You earned this moment," she said, cupping Maya's face with pride in her eyes. "You showed the world that kindness still matters." So, Maya stood nervously on the stage that Saturday evening, her hands trembling slightly as she accepted the award. The mayor smiled warmly and said, "In a world often too busy to care, Maya reminded us what it means to be human." The crowd gave her a standing ovation. After the ceremony, as she stepped off the stage, Mr. Whitaker approached her slowly, his cane tapping against the polished floor. He was dressed in a crisp navy suit, his silver hair combed neatly to the side. But it was the look in his eyes, clear and grateful, that struck Maya the most. He took her hand gently and whispered, "You didn't just help me that day, Maya. You helped a father reconnect with his son. And you reminded me that good hearts still walk this earth." Tears welled up in Maya's eyes as she nodded, speechless. Next to him stood his son, David, now a regular figure in Maya's life. He had dropped by the diner a few times since that day, always thanking her again, always insisting on paying for everyone's meal. Their conversations had grown longer, friendlier. There was something comforting about his presence, steady, kind, thoughtful. As the months passed, that comfort blossomed into something deeper. David and Maya began to spend more time together. They shared walks in the park, conversations over coffee, and dreams about life beyond the diner. Maya discovered that David was a civil engineer who volunteered in his spare time, helping build sustainable housing in underdeveloped neighborhoods. His heart, much like his father's, was rooted in service. He encouraged Maya to think bigger, to believe in herself beyond the four walls of the diner. "You've got so much to offer," he'd tell her. "The world needs more people like you." One evening, as they sat on a bench beneath the glowing fairy lights of a small-town festival, David turned to her and said, "You know, if it weren't for that day in the grocery store, we might never have met." Maya smiled, her hand finding his. Funny how life works like that. One small moment, and everything changes. Their relationship grew steadily, nurtured by respect and shared values. They didn't rush anything. Maya, still adjusting to the shift from anonymous diner server to local icon, needed time. And David gave her that. Eventually, Maya was offered a scholarship to return to school, funded by a local nonprofit inspired by her story. She had always dreamed of becoming a social worker, but had never believed it was within reach. Now, thanks to the community she had once quietly served, that dream began to look like a reality. She accepted the offer with tears in her eyes, knowing she could now help others on a larger scale. And Mr. Whitaker? His health improved with his son by his side. The two made up for lost time, sharing Sunday dinners and stories, often inviting Maya to join. He'd always greet her with a warm smile and a joke, calling her the angel who carried my groceries and my heart. As for the diner, Maya still visited from time to time, now as a guest rather than a waitress. Her coworkers beamed with pride when she walked in, and regulars insisted on paying for her coffee. One day, as she walked past the aisle in the grocery store where it all began, she paused for a moment. The same tile floors, the same hum of fluorescent lights, but everything had changed. She took a deep breath, the weight of the past few months settling over her like sunlight through a window. One small moment, one choice to help, and it had rippled into something bigger than she could have imagined. As she stepped out into the daylight, Maya realized that her story wasn't about a viral video, or an award, or even the romance that had blossomed from it all. It was about kindness. Quiet, simple, powerful kindness. The kind that echoes.